Hello, this is Truman, and we're looking at lessons in personal evangelism. I call this principle availability. Just telling God, God, I'm available. Lord, if there's someone that you're dealing with, Lord, make me sensitive to your spirit and your leading. I'm available to share Jesus with them. I've been invited by the mayor's office to come and opening the prayer at the city council. I made a visit to our local hospital, and I looked at my watch and I said, well, I have about an hour and a half before I'm supposed to be at the city council. And so in the parking lot, I said, Lord, if there's someone that you want me to share Jesus with, then I want you to know I'm available. I pulled out of the hospital parking lot, and as I began to drive just a few houses down, a street address came to my mind. Now, I don't have a photographic memory, far from it, but I looked up and I remembered the address of a visitor's card from Easter services. I couldn't believe it, but I knew that the fact that I remembered that address and I was in front of that house after I prayed the availability prayer, I knew that God was at work. And so my prayer was, if there's someone you want me to speak to, I'm available. Now, this couple, let me give you a backstory. This couple, the wife, God was dealing with her heart, and she wanted to seek God. But the man had no interest whatsoever in the Lord. His brother was an alcoholic. He had got saved in our church, and his brother kept asking his brother to come to services. He refused to come to church. He put him off by saying, I'll come on Easter. And so on that particular Easter, he did come. I remember his appearance because in the service we all stood to sing. He sat and he folded his arms, tilted his head to one side, and kind of glared at me. And during the preaching, the same body language. I'm here, but I'm not listening. And it's like, I'm here and you haven't moved me. And I remember he left that service today. Okay, I've done what my brother asked me to do, now stay off my back. That was kind of his attitude. Well, what I did not know when I prayed the availability prayer, the wife and the husband were having a big fight. She was saying, I want to go back to that church. I want to go back to that church again. And he was dogmatic, saying, listen, I'm not going back to any church. In fact, I don't want you to talk about God in this house. In fact, if you want to talk about God, there's the door you can get out. That's the kind of conversation he was having. And then he kind of said, and I don't know exactly the words, so many years have passed, but there was a coffee table, and he almost challenged God. He said, okay, God, if you're up there, do anything to prove that you're real. Do anything to prove that you're really a God. He slammed his hand down on the coffee table and says, put an apple on this table. And he dramatically paused. And he turned to his wife and said, there's no apple, there's no God. And then he turned to walk to the bathroom. As he got to the bathroom door, he turned around and said to his wife, one more statement. If God would do anything at all, like send my brother's pastor to the door. And as he said that, I knocked on the door. Now that's amazing. That's amazing that God was at work. And so when he opened the door, he opened it with a jerk. And he said, what do you want? I had two options. One to call back in fear, or one to be bold. I chose to be bold. And I said, listen, I prayed this prayer a moment ago. I said, God, if there's someone you want me to talk to, then I'm available. And all of a sudden, I remembered your address from a visitor's card from church. And I was right in front of your house. So I'm here because God sent me to tell you about Jesus. He said, come in. Long story short, they both would come to know Christ. They would become vibrant witnesses for Jesus. In fact, he would become one of my buddies as we would go and evangelize. And he would give some of his days off just to go with me in personal evangelism. So what's the principle? We don't know what's taking place behind closed doors. There's a wife that's being abused. There's a husband that feels empty. There's alcoholism. There's brokenness. There's problems with children. And people are crying out to God. We don't know who they are, but God does. He's the shepherd searching for his lost sheep. What should we do in this co-laboring with Christ in personal evangelism? We need to say, God, I'm available. I'm available to share Jesus. You watch God work. We can see the power of God in personal evangelism like in no other place in our Christian life.